Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast for dance studio owners, where each week we bring you business growth strategies to help you increase your profits, impact the lives of more students, while ensuring you get back some time to have a little life outside of the studio. It's time for you to become the go-to studio in your area. Now, here's your host, founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association, Clint Salter.
Hey there, dance studio owners. Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. It's Clint here, and I'm so thrilled that you're joining us for today's episode. Now, today's guest is a renowned marketing strategy consultant, professional speaker, and frequent contributor to the Harvard Business Review. Her name is Dorie Clark. She's been hailed as a branding expert by the Associated Press, Fortune, and Inc. magazine. She's also the author of two of my favorite books, Reinventing You and Stand Out, which was named the #1 leadership book of 2015 by Inc. magazine. She's also got her brand new book, which I can't wait to read, coming out in October, Entrepreneurial You. Dorie Clark, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Clint, it is awesome to talk to you.
And I want to let you know that when I moved to New York, I could only take 25 books with me, and I had about 160, and your two books made the cut. So they are sitting in my cupboard here in my New York apartment. And I want to say thank you so much for writing two really brilliant books that have made a huge impact on how we operate as a business and as a brand.
That's amazing. Thank you. Wow. I can't believe you carted them all the way from Oz. That's incredible. Thanks.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. So I want to firstly talk about Reinventing You, because one of the things that I loved that you talked about was really identifying what is the essence of a brand. And for our studio owners, the word brand is a little bit confusing because a lot of them think, okay, it's the color of my logo, it's the tagline that I use. But can you explain to us what really is the essence of a brand, and how do we start identifying what is that for our dance studio?
Yeah, it's such an important point that you raised, Clint, because I think you're exactly right. The word brand to a lot of people connotes what I think of as the tip of the iceberg. Just the most obvious stuff. What's the logo? Oh, should I be red or purple or whatever? And in the end, honestly, that matters very little. When we talk about brands, whether it's a personal brand or a corporate brand for that matter, fundamentally, it's about your reputation. That's really what it is. And that's not, what color you are or what your logo says. It is the sum total of what people think about you. And that comes from everything from what courses or programs you offer, to what people find about you online, to what the customer experience is like and how you treat your clients. And so you really need to think about all of that in a holistic sense. And I think that one of the most important things that has been a positive change in the internet era is that branding, especially business branding in the past, oftentimes was such a top-down affair. People felt like they had to create this sort of corporate identity of this is what serious people do. This is what a brand is. And nowadays, we hear so much of that becomes noise. What people notice instead is the things that are human and real. And so to the extent that dance studio owners can really take what connects them to their passion for dance and share that with other people, the more people perceive it as being authentic and an outgrowth of your personality and the contribution that you want to make. How do you want to bring dance into the life of your clients? That's the part that gets people excited and, most importantly, turns it viral because it makes the experience something that they want to talk about and proactively tell other people.
Yeah, I love it. So it's really about amplifying that authenticity. How do, a lot of our studio owners say, how do I not sound like everyone else? Because, in the dance space, there's a studio on every single corner and everyone's talking about come and have fun and be social and get your kids away from the iPad and come and have a coffee and be with some other mums. How do we say what we are and it's still to be authentic, but not blend in with all the other noise that's out there?
Yeah, I think that this is a common problem for entrepreneurs and small business owners. And I think that in a lot of cases, the problem is that people start by looking outside rather than inside. And that's a mistake. I mean, in fact, yesterday I was working with a coaching client of mine, and she's an executive coach. And I was looking at her website. We were just starting with the basics, reading her bio, and it sounded like everybody else's. And the problem, of course, is that she wrote the bio because she looked at a bunch of other people's and said, "Oh, this is how you do it." And yes, it means that you're not doing it in some wildly, quote unquote, incorrect way. You're doing it in a standard way, but it also means you're going to be average. You're going to look just like everybody else, use the same words, and just blend in. Instead, you have to start internally. There is a reason, presumably, why your listeners either started dance studios or chose to purchase dance studios. I hope that reason is that they care about dance and they care about sharing that with other people. And so understanding where that taps in. I mean, what is it? Are they Argentine tango aficionados? Did they watch Dirty Dancing and fall in love with Patrick Swayze? I mean, what is it?
Yeah.
And, getting to the core of that and sharing that with people, and also starting programming, even if this isn't the core of your programming, having fun, interesting things. I mean, could you? I'm making this up because I haven't actually been, forgive me, to a dance studio in a while. But could you have a Dirty Dancing film night and do something? Have like a Back to the '80s, whatever. Just something fun and different that'll get people talking. That you give them free popcorn and you watch a movie and you do whatever. I mean, I'm just making this up, but it's the kind of thing. How can you surprise people? Not by looking around at what your competition is doing, but by saying, what would light me up? What got me to care about dance? And how can I transmit that passion to other people and show them a glimpse of what it could be in their lives?
I love that. What would light me up? And studio owners, I want you to make sure you're writing that down in your notebook, because so often we get on the treadmill and we keep going and we keep doing what we think we should be doing and looking at what everyone else is doing, but not very often do we turn inwards, like Dorie's talking about, and saying like, what would light me up? What would be an extension of like what I'm passionate about? And that's kind of around the why side of things. So that's the internal work. How do you talked about kind of reputation and looking what is out there, what your customers, have said about you. And I believe we're in a really good place at the moment to really know how our customers feel, because they can put it on social media in a 5-star or a 1-star review on Facebook. They can send an email. They can post something on their own profile on Facebook. So I think it's a great time to be collecting data. What do we do with all of those words and paragraphs and great things and not so great things that are out there about our business, our dance studio? How do we collect all of that information and present it to potential customers in a way that really connects?
Well, I think, Clint, that one of the most important things that we can do with that data is to try to answer the question, what is it that our customers see as most distinctive about us? Your dance studio probably has 90% of things in common with other dance studios. And, maybe you offer similar courses, maybe, similar prices, whatever. But what is that 10% that other people home in on that they think is really interesting and distinctive? Maybe your studio has a real luxury experience. Maybe there's something that you're doing where you're trying to be high end. Again, I'm just making this up, but maybe you give every client a truffle at the end of class or something.
That'd be good. That's a winning idea right there, Dorie.
Exactly. Yeah. Feel free to take that, guys. Absolutely. Maybe it's having really compelling staff. Now, of course, everybody thinks, oh yes, our instructors are the best, right? But I think about something like Soul Cycle here in New York, and of course, this is the spinning studio. It has inspired a cult-like devotion, And they really have focused on their staff and, in fact, trying to make their staff into celebrities because these folks have built such a following. And so SoulCycle, if you walk by any SoulCycle studio outside, not inside the building, outside the building, they will have nearly billboard-size posters with pictures of their instructors, the names of their instructors. And these are very, heroic black and white images. And each instructor has a word. Stacy is fierce, and Josh is inspiring, and whatever. They are leaning in to their talent because they know that that's what separates them.
It's so true. I'm a huge fan of the girls that started SoulCycle, and the way that they've really turned, like you said, their trainers into celebrities, and they are. I mean, I'm following a lot of them on Instagram because they're, they are inspiring and motivating, and I'm so captivated by how they've built mini brands out of these people. And so I love that. I think it's so valuable. I want to kind of switch gears for a second and talk about some of the messaging you've got in your book, Stand Out, which is really about creating breakthrough ideas. Can you define for us firstly, like, what is a breakthrough idea?
Well, ultimately, a breakthrough idea is an idea that distinguishes you and sets you apart in the marketplace. Now, I think that many times people get a little tripped up because they feel like, a breakthrough, that has to be like a scientific breakthrough. Like I have to have some sort of, Galileo level idea. And of course, that's an impossible standard for any of us. But, when we think about what could make a real difference for our business, you don't have to be Galileo. There is a lot of room between the poles of doing the same thing that everybody else is doing and winning the Nobel Prize in physics. And so in between that is room for you to come up with something creative and different and unique. I mean, maybe I'm just making this up. Let's say you are a dance studio owner and you also are a big foodie. Maybe you create a series of dance plus food programs. So you take, the Tarantella and you have an Italian cuisine night matching it. Maybe you have the tango night and you have a local pop-up truck do empanadas. I mean, whatever it is, but it gets people talking. It's different. It's distinctive, and it's drawing from your own unique passions and background.
Yeah, so it's so cool. I love this so much. I guess one of the concerns or challenges our studio owners have with this concept of breakthrough idea is, I have this idea, and then how do I sell it to my team? How do I get my team on the same page to support and buy into this breakthrough idea? What are some of your tools that you have that you teach your clients and consult on and speak on when it comes to getting the team on the same page?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are some of the topics that I talked about in my book, Stand Out. But ultimately, there's a few different ways that you can get other people on board with your ideas. One, of course, is to sort of heighten attention in some ways, because of course, it's human nature that it's always easier to keep doing the same thing rather than changing. And so sometimes it is important to get people to recognize the urgency of a situation, so that ultimately they can understand that it's safer to make the change than not make the change. So for instance, if your business is, if revenues have been flat for the past number of months, sometimes, depending on who the staff is and your level of trust in them, it can be useful to explain that trajectory and say, look, we can't keep having flat revenues. We need to grow. This is essential for the success of the business. And, we believe that this initiative is the thing that can do that. That's why this is essential. And so I think framing can be useful. Another thing which oftentimes can help accelerate buy-in is if people feel like a change is permanent, that can be a little bit distressing if they're not fully committed, or they think there's maybe an issue with the idea. And so it's often a good idea to frame almost everything as a pilot and say, look, you know what, we're going to try this for a month. We're going to try this for 6 weeks, whatever it is. and say, look, we'll try it. It's an experiment. And if it goes great, well, obviously we're going to keep doing it because, you'll probably like it too if we have a bunch of new students and revenues are great and everybody is excited about it. If it turns out it sucks, no problem. We'll go back to the way it was before.
Yeah. So I love that one, framing everything as an experiment. And I think as well for the studio owner, I know definitely with me, it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit as well. That this has to work. And if this doesn't work, well, then it's a disaster.
That's right. I think that one of the biggest contributions from the sort of mindset of Silicon Valley is the so-called lean startup methodology, which emphasizes the idea of just constant small iterative tests. That it's not a good idea even to make some big massive change and just hope that it works. That's oftentimes a lot of wishful thinking and can lead you down a wrong path. But if you do small tweaks and you keep testing along the way to see how the customers respond and see if it's working, then it gives you a lot more room to maneuver and try new things and adjust.
Yeah, completely. I really, really love. That's a big takeaway, guys. Make sure that you write that one down. Dorie, one of the things I really enjoyed was like looking at your perspective around women creating their own personal brands, and 98% of our studio owners that are listening are women in business, CEOs of their studio, and you've talked about the likability conundrum with females in business and female business owners. Can you talk to me a little bit more about this philosophy and how do we overcome that to really put ourselves and our business in the spotlight without thinking, are they going to like me? What are they going to say about me? That judgment piece that we have.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a phenomenon that has been talked about a lot in business circles, has been researched. And as you alluded to, the likability conundrum essentially is the situation that has been documented that unfortunately, and this is especially true for women who are typically socialized that it is a good idea to be perceived as likable. Unfortunately, there is a very common bias among both men and women that likability and competence are inversely related, meaning the more likable you're perceived as being, the less competent you're perceived as being. So this is a really tricky and unfortunate situation because obviously, the answer isn't, oh, I just won't be likable at all. I'll just act like a mean, terrible person so people will think I'm competent. That's not a good solution. And the opposite isn't good either. You don't want to be so likable that people say, oh, well, she's sweet, but who listens to her? We all need to find a way to thread that needle on our own. And it's not always easy. Certainly as anyone who has watched, recent presidential politics can attest. There's a lot of times that, competent women, have the B word thrown at them. And so I think that, ultimately the way that we can attempt to navigate this, first of all, is just being aware of this situation, because sometimes if we aren't conscious of it or we aren't focused on it, we can sometimes veer too much in one direction, sort of play to one of our strengths and neglect the other, and that becomes problematic. You're penalized if you go too far in one direction or the other. You have to have a little bit of both, and both likability and competence for sure. And so what I personally strive for is, I do think it's an important value to be likable, to be nice, to treat people well. But I am also cognizant that I look for opportunities proactively to demonstrate competence. And so, if you might be friendly, you might be smiling all the time, but if you can make sure that you're making a point to speak up in meetings and share your insights, if you're making a point, if you've read a book or a study that is salient, to cite that, or to be sharing relevant professional articles on LinkedIn women or things like that. Just giving people signs so that they are reminded, oh, she's not just nice. She also knows what she's talking about.
So good. Oh my God, Dorie, this is gold. I know that we're running out of time. So if our studio owners took one thing away from all of the wisdom that you shared with us today, what would the one thing be that you would say, you know what, take note of this. This is the important thing that you need to work on or implement?
Yeah, thank you, Clint. Well, I think that if I was going to leave people with one key framework, it's actually something from my book Stand Out. And that is, if you are really going to build an idea or a movement that spreads, and this applies to branding and marketing your studio. You know, how do you get people talking about you and what you're doing and get them excited about it? It's a 3-step process, and it's useful to have the framework in mind so that you can just kind of build your social and professional network accordingly. And so that 3-step process is, first, you build your network. Second, you build your audience. And third, you build your community. And what I mean by that is that step 1 is surrounding yourself with talented, like-minded people, essentially your own inner circle, your own mentor board of directors. And the reason that that's so important is that these are the people who can speak to you honestly, give you feedback, help guide you when you're hitting a wall. And almost any small business owner or entrepreneur sometimes has challenges. And so if you have other people, they don't necessarily even have to be other dance studio owners, although they could be, but other entrepreneurs or people you respect to give you advice, that's an invaluable first step. Second, you build your audience. And that is about starting to share your ideas publicly, getting out there, letting people know about what you do. Maybe it's writing articles. Maybe it's giving speeches in the community. Maybe it's creating Spotify playlists and sharing them with your clients so that they can sort of feel your vibe.
That's a big soul cycle one. I love that.
That's right. Exactly. So that's important about building your audience. And then third and finally, building your community. This is the place where your business really has the opportunity to take off. Because no matter what, if you are the only person that is talking about your business, over time, that's not going to work. One person can't do it alone. You have to get your customers talking about your business and recruiting other people for it, which means you've got to get them excited. You've got to give them a reason to be telling other people, oh, wow, I took this class. Oh, wow, I did this program. This is so great. And so really thinking not just how do I deliver a class or how do I deliver a service, but how do I build a community? How do you create a way for people in your community, in your classes, to connect with each other, to connect around dance, and to make it a more integral part of their lives? When you do that, then that will get them motivated to talk and share and bring other people into the community.
This such a valuable framework. So the Standout framework, create your network, audience, and community. What a great way to end our conversation together, Dorie. For everyone that's listening, please go and check out Dorie's book, Standout, Reinventing You. I can't wait for Entrepreneurial You coming out in October. It's going to be super exciting. Dorie, where can we find out more about you and your books? And you've got a lot of great videos I've seen on YouTube as well, which is cool.
Thank you, Clint. Yes. If folks would like more information or more than 400 free articles, they can go to DorieClark.com and get it there. And I also have a free resource. My new book, Entrepreneurial You, is about how to monetize your expertise and create multiple income streams, which hopefully might be of interest to dance studio owners. And if it is, I have a free Entrepreneurial You self-assessment that folks can get at DorieClark.com/entrepreneur.
Awesome. That's great. I'll definitely be taking that. Thanks again. So great to connect with you, Dorie, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom with our studio owners.
Thank you, Clint. Take care.
Thank you for joining us today. For all the resource links from the show and to receive access to our free dance studio growth training, make sure you visit transformmydancestudio.com.